All right. All right. Welcome everyone to your summer Mels 605. I am absolutely delighted that you're going to be a part of this program with me. I'm really most pleased that I'm going to be a part of the program and the very last course that you have. So my goal in this course is to make sure that we cover all the content material, that is all kind of the accumulating course in Mels, which is going to be preparing you for the principalship or the assistant principalship. My goal is to make sure that you complete that task stream project. That's Dr. Revis's and my responsibility. And it is also to make sure that we have you ready when you leave this course for that next step in your career, whether it's the assistant principal or the principalship. And it is not uncommon. It's not common, but it's not uncommon for, I guess that's a difference, but it's not unusual for someone to move straight from the classroom to the principal's office. So it's easily done. So let me begin by introducing myself, and then I'm going to have Dr. Revis introduce herself, and we will be working with you this entire semester. She is your clinical 2 coach. She will be helping you with the SIAP as well as myself. So a little bit about myself, the instructor. I am Dr. Steve Stone. I am 38 years in public education in the state of North Carolina, 5 in the state of South Carolina. I have served in a number of capacities. I've been a teacher. I've been an assistant principal for curriculum, an assistant principal for just the assistant principal. I've been a principal. I've been a central office director and a superintendent in 3 school districts. I've been a superintendent. I retired a year ago. I was a superintendent for over 20 years. And so all here in North Carolina. So I feel like I have a really good feel for the information that's going to be preparing you for that next step in your career. Native North Carolinian, born and bred here. Went through the public schools of Person County, North Carolina, to the public universities of North Carolina, and undergraduate UNC Chapel Hill, master's degree from UNC Charlotte, and my doctorate degree from NC State University. So I've got them all. Wished I'd known about Gardner-Webb at that time when I was going through my education, because I think that you are getting a wonderful education here at Gardner-Webb. So that's me. I am a full-time professor at Gardner-Webb University. I have office hours. I do not expect you all to, unless you want to show up on campus, but I do have office hours on Thursday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But I am available at any point through my email or through my cell phone number. And when you see where you introduce to your professor, my private email, that is my private cell phone number, and I really use it. I will tell you this, I do sleep till about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I go to bed about 10 o'clock at night. So anything between 10 p.m. and 9 a.m. is kind of, would prefer that you not call and text, but anything else, I'll return your emails and your text as quickly as possible. That's it. That's who I am. Any questions about me? I am excited. I've been teaching for the year that I've been at Gardner-Webb. We've had great, and we've had a lot of people move on to become administrators. So really, truly, what I want to do is to make sure that you're highly successful in this course, but that when you leave Webb University, that you are ready for that principalship or that assistant principalship. That's my goal. So let me introduce, or I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Revis so she can introduce herself to you. Dr. Revis.
Hi guys, my name is Kathy Revis. I'm an adjunct to the Gardner-Webb program for over 9 years. My experiences in public education have been a math teacher, and I enjoyed the math joke. I do appreciate math jokes. There are very few of them, but I do appreciate them. Then I began my career in administration. I've been a high school assistant principal, elementary principal, high school principal, and I retired 3 years ago as assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and I held that position for 17 years. Since my retirement, I've continued to work with Gardner-Webb University, and I have also on a board of trustees for our local community college, and I also worked 2 years in our Head Start NC Pre-K program after retirement. So I feel like I've had a broad spectrum of educational experiences, and I am psyched about working with you this semester, your final semester, and hope to get you through that last evidence artifact, the PSYOP. And do you want me, Dr. Stone, to talk about that?
Please do. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm hoping you can see my screen. Can you? Okay, so this is my overview page, and um, I just summarize a little bit there about my experiences in education. But there's my personal cell phone number, and then you also have my Gardner Webb email. I do text and return texts, but I prefer either emails or phone calls. And I check my email at least 3 times a day, and if I am not able to get your phone call, when you call, I will return it just as soon as possible. So you should have an internship shell, and I hope all of you have been placed in it at this time. I only had 18 this morning, so I've got about 9 or 10 more of you, I think, that need to be placed in there. But what I wanted to talk with you about very briefly can be found under your content page. And this is a PowerPoint that I've posted for you that I borrowed. You know, we educators borrow and steal from other educators, from Dr. Sarah Whitaker. And this is going to introduce you to your PSYOP. Now, I'm not going to go through everything here, but I would like to go through the first 3 tasks. The good thing about your PSYOP, guys, is you have done almost all of this work in your previous artifact evidences. So it's just going to be a matter of extracting information and data analysis and action plans that you have already developed and putting them together for your PSYOP. Now, you just don't copy and paste an entire artifact. It has to make sense, and there is a rubric for your PSYOP that you will need to follow as well. So the big warning here is don't just copy and paste all the artifacts that we're going to talk about this evening. You need to just pull that information that is needed to construct your PSYOP. So let's look at task 1. It's a school data project image, and you did a very similar image back in your APSL. And so this comes from your rubric. Formulate a clear image of your school's academic growth, academic accomplishments, and opportunities for growth. If you remember back in, I think it was task 2 of your APSL, you had to do that. You had to do an analysis of your standardized testing results, benchmark assessments, and other data. And so you've already done some of that. And you would also need to be sure you have disaggregated that data by subgroups. Now, if you didn't do that in the APSL, you will need to do that here for your PSYOP. You will also be required to utilize EVOS if you didn't do that as well. So you're going to put together a school data project for this first task. There are your prompts. There's your prompt as written in your rubric. And there are 3 things to remember, 3 big things that your evaluator and task stream is going to look at. You've got to clearly convey that you convened a collaborative team to do an analysis of your school. You've got to communicate those findings to your school improvement team, and you have to make sure that you are disaggregating your data by subgroups, and you are setting academic goals and expectations. So here's where you can pull, not just copy and paste, but pull some of your data. Of course, all of our artifact evidences start with your background information and description of your setting. So Dr. Whitaker suggests you pull that from your SCIP task 1, prompt 1, and I guess that's because that's one of your more recent artifacts. So go back and you can copy and paste that. You don't have any testing data that you have received or any other information, demographic information that has changed since you did your last background information. And then here's the reference to the APSL. You can pull information from tasks 1 through 3. Remember, in task 1, you had to do an overview of the PLC research. You wouldn't use that in this particular task, PSYOP. You would not use that PLC research, but you do describe how you selected your PLC members and how you convened the team. And you would take all of your data that you looked at in the fall semester, and because that's your most recent data still, be sure to add your EBOS and be sure that you have disaggregated your data by subgroups. In your OMA Task 1 and 2, you will find some information there about subgroup data, I believe. And then in the Task 2 of the OMA, you developed some strategies and set some goals for professional development. To score a 4 on this particular artifact, you have to set some goals for professional development. Don't forget that. And in the CAP, Tasks 1 and 2, you may have selected some information there about attendance and disciplinary data that you can also pull and extract for Task 1. So again, let me emphasize, and I know I sound like a broken record, don't just copy and paste. Pull the information that is needed that makes sense and fits into your PSYOP rubric. All right, Task 2. I'm only going to go through the first 3 tasks, and this PowerPoint goes through all of them. Task 2 is about your teacher working conditions survey. You have to do another, or you have to do an analysis of that that you're going to use for your school improvement plan. And you create a visual display. You've already done that. The difference here is that you have to have video evidence that your findings were presented to peers. If you don't have that archived somewhere, then you would need to do that. Now, if you will look in your CAP, tasks 1 through 4, you will find most of this information. In task 1 of the CAP is where you did an analysis of your teacher working conditions survey as it relates to school climate. In task 2, if you recall, I know it's been a while, in task 2 is where you did that school environmental analysis, where you did some observations and some interviews. You can also include that information. And in task 3 is where you did a cultural competence analysis. And then in task 4 is where you did a graphic organizer. So you're going to be able to use all information from all 4 of those tasks as well. In the SKIP task 1, prompt 2, is where you also delved into the teacher working conditions survey, into the leadership constructs, the school leadership constructs. You've already done that piece as well. And then PSYOP task 3 is a focus group project. Here you can pull from your SKIP task 1, prompt 1 and 2, and your SKIP task 2, and there's only 1 prompt in task 2. And then again, your CAP task 1 through 4. So guys, most of the information that you're going to use in these first 3 tasks, you've already done. Again, this goes on about PSYOP 4, 5, and 6, and I'm not going to go through those at this time. I think I'm going to come back with you again about midway through the course, and we'll talk about those other 3. I also want to direct your information to the PSYOP rubric, which I've posted for you. This is what, guys, your task stream evaluator is going to look at. We want to always, of course, shoot for accomplished. And here in that task 1, you see the difference between a 3 and a 4 is the staff development, suggested staff development. So don't forget to include that. And here is task 2. All 6 of them are listed here. Again, these are the things that your evaluator will make sure you have. And there's task 3. So according to your week by week, which I'm sure Dr. Stone is going to talk about a little bit with you, you are, it says that you have to have all of your task 1 in by next Sunday, by the end of next week. Now, here's kind of how we do this. I review your tasks before you send them to Dr. Stone. So over here in your internship shell, you see your PSYOP Dropbox. So you go there and you see there's a Dropbox for each of the 6 tasks. So I will evaluate and give you feedback. I have to put a score in. I'm not giving you a grade. You're pass fail for your internship, but I do have to give you some type of score when I send your feedback. But what we will do here is hopefully there will only be minor revisions that I will tell you to do, and then you're ready to upload it for your evaluation through Dr. Stone. Now, of course, his grade counts, but mine does not count. I have to give one though.
Can I add to Dr. Revis, because I know you're going to mention this, but this is a critical piece that will save you a lot of time. In all the PSYOP, because this is the stuff that goes to task stream that will go to the state of North Carolina. That's why we have 2 graders for it. And Dr. Revis is going to grade it first. And she will be looking toward that rubric. She'll be looking toward everything that you need to get a 4 in task stream. Then once she finishes it, then all you have to do is submit it to me, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But what I am looking for in that memo is that Dr. Revis has approved. Because if I do not send that, I'm going to send it back to you with the less than perfect score and say, has Dr. Revis approved? So save some time and energy. Always send your PSYOPs to Dr. Revis. Now, you may wonder, why do we need this? Well, Dr. Revis is looking for a lot of different things, or different things than what I am. I'm looking for, not only are you following the rubric and are you doing the assignment correctly, but I'm also looking to see whether or not you've incorporated something from the course, whether or not there's something that I can add to make this a little bit easier for you. So Dr. Revis may give you a perfect score, and you may get a less than perfect score from me, but I promise you, if you do, I'll tell you, here's the one thing that I'd like to see. Because I'm a visual person, so oftentimes, I'd say 90% of the time, that's a chart of who's on your team. I can tell you right up front, if I don't see that, I'll probably send it back and say, do me a visual, because I really like visuals. So that's how we'll work it, but that's what I'm looking for. And I'm sorry, Dr. Revis, take the time, but I'm looking for, when you send it to me as a submission, to say Dr. Revis has approved. And that'll save us a lot of time. That tells me she's looked at it, she's comfortable with it, and then I can look at it with a different eye before it's graded.
And guys, when I'm giving you feedback, if I tell you you have some grammatical errors, I'm not going to go through and point those out. But that should clue you in that you need to go back and proofread, or have someone else proofread the paper. If I tell you you have APA issues, I'm not going to point them out, but you have to go back and find them. Now, there are 28 of you, so if everybody turns their paper in on Sunday evening, there is no way I can evaluate and give feedback on 28 overnight. I just can't do that. So as soon as you get it completed, turn it in. And I will first come, first serve, first feedback, okay? And if you have to get it back to me, if I tell you you have to revise something and send it back to me again, that's fine. No worries. We'll do that. You know, unless but I will get bogged down in it, I'm afraid, having 28. But I will try to get through them and give you as quick a feedback as I can. But if you get it completed, don't hang on to it until Sunday evening or Monday evening. Get it to me as soon as possible. And I look forward to working with you. I have been an evaluator for a long time, and I'm very accustomed to the evaluation rubric, and I am hanging tight to the rubric. If you send me something that looks like just a string of copy and paste stuff, I'm going to send it back. It has to follow the rubric and flow in a logical manner.
Ask a question. Is
Sure.
a week Sunday to Sunday? Like last time we had to have everything turned in on a Wednesday. So is your week Sunday to Sunday? Is that what I'm?
It doesn't matter to me, Dr. Stone.
Well, let me say this. What you have, and we'll talk about this when we go over my Blackboard shell. The ideal world that you all don't live in. If your husband or wife was cooking dinner for all the children, you'd live in an ideal world. Or if your schoolwork didn't keep coming at you, it would be an ideal world. I am not a stickler, even though I have in the schedule, when you turn in these materials. I don't care if you turn them in on Sunday or if you turn them in on Wednesday, but what I think Dr. Revis is saying is that we have a timeline here, and you guys are only in this course for 10 weeks. So you have less time than most to complete this. So if you follow the timeline, I would suggest that you do it by Sunday night. That gives Dr. Revis some time between Tuesday. So if there's any questions you may have of her on Tuesday or me that I can refer, or I can answer or refer to her, we can have those on Tuesday night. So try the Sunday. But let me just restate this. I will take them whenever I get them. And I realize that you all have problems. You all have issues that come up at school and family. So if you're late 1 week, this is just an ideal world schedule. So and if you follow this schedule, I promise you, you will finish in enough time and say, now what am I going to do for the next 2 weeks that we have class, which means you'll be joining me and having a lot of conversation with me on the course. But yes, just know this is something you got to do. And not only this, but Dr. Revis will be talking a little bit later on about the 4 other things that you need to do in TaskStream before we can send certification to the state of North Carolina. So you have a lot to do in TaskStream. So I try to stick to that schedule, but the short answer, Shonda, which is what I think you wanted, was Sunday.
And guys, again, if you run into questions, if you're not sure how to get started, or you run into a bump in the road, I would much rather you talk to me early rather than go ahead and doing it wrong and having to redo it. I'm always available and will try my best to get back with you in a timely manner. So I look forward to working with each of you and with Dr. Stone. I typically am not going to be online with you guys on Tuesday nights, but again, reach out to me. You have my email address and personal phone number. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Dr. Stone.
All right, and I'll share mine. Let me just say too, I have to compliment you all, because this is the first time I have ever taught a class where we have 100% participation. Hats off.
Wow.
And I know that's not going to be the case for all 10 classes, but it really is a great start. So Dr. Revis, thank you very much. Stick around if you'd like, but I'm going to answer a couple of questions about the course. I've got 2 content materials I want to cover with you tonight and kind of introduce you to how I do Blackstream. How I do Blackboard. So I know you've had several different instructors and we all do it differently. So this is my Blackboard. So I'd like to walk you through it and show you exactly how things go for me. So in Blackboard, this is where you always go. Blackboard, I have 2 classes, 0 and 03. So I usually pull up the first one, which is 605/0. So your shell should be very similar. But in this, you already know where to go to look for your grades, but occasionally about 2 or 3 times a semester, you will get an email from me sending you a copy of your grades so you'll know what you need to do in order to be successful. The first thing I want to call your attention to, and click along with me, all this is open, is your weekly schedule. I want to spend a few minutes about this because this is kind of an important component of what what I'll be expecting of you, and I've got to move you all. All right, so each week I am giving you kind of what the topic is going to be. And whenever you see SIAP coach, that means Dr. Revis is going to be joining us and talking about the SIAP as well as other things that are due in TaskStream. I'm going to talk about very quickly tonight the role of administrators. I'm going to do a Blackboard review and some other things. So that's our topics. That's what I'm going to talk about. That's kind of, if you're looking for the syllabus, this is what I'm going to spend some time on. The Zoom dates are there. They're always at 6 o'clock. They're every Tuesday except the July 4th weekend. The books are available. If you are following along, these are the chapters, the textbooks, resources. This is what you should be working on. Again, perfect world. Everything's great. Just remember, I'll take whatever you send to me, whenever you send it to me, and grade it as long as Dr. Revis has said it's approved for her to pass on. But at this point, you need to go in and do the student verification activity. You need to go ahead and do your introductory video, which is, it's in your, I'll show you where to find these, as well as turn in a task or assignment 1. And then all of you have completed your CAP, so none of you have any evidence work. This is your TaskStream materials or things that are related to TaskStream, so none of you have that. So let's look at week 2. This is what we're going to do tonight. All right, next week, we're going to meet at 6 o'clock. We're going to talk about job descriptions, and I'm going to introduce you to the PEASL standards. The PEASL standards are the standards in which North Carolina, South Carolina, and the other states in the union will be moving toward to evaluate principals. Now, these are very important to me because as a superintendent, I can tell you that if the state says these are the standards that my principals need to have, I can assure you this is how I am going to evaluate you. So we'll be starting an introduction to the PEASL standards. There are no chapter readings, but at this point you should look at assignment 2 and try to complete scenario 1 And in the perfect world, hopefully by that point, you would have sent task 1 to Dr. Revis and she would have approved it and you would send it to me. Again, folks, I'm just telling you, this is just a perfect world scenario. But if you follow this, you'll do well. So each week, you'll see that it's divided the same way. We'll go all the way down. We do skip this July 4th week here. We are not meeting that night. But if you are following along and everything is perfect, under week 8, we'll start looking at those other things that are due in TaskStream. And by week 9, you'll be done with all that stuff. So when we meet on week 10, you will have everything you need behind you in this particular course. All right, so that's something to look at. The TaskStream schedule, this is, again, kind of, here's a perfect world. This is when all of your things could be done. These are the other things that are due in TaskStream. And so you'll see, and also I have to submit summit locations, so we'll talk about that in a moment. The required textbooks, you've seen those. We're using a new Peter Northouse book as well as the Glickman. The Zoom invitations, you have that. All right, if you were looking at Blackboard, there are only 2 places that you are going to have to submit stuff for me to grade. The first one is here under assignments. And under assignments, this is your video introduction that I was talking to you about. I'd say about a third of you have already done that. It's a YouTube video or whatever format you want to use. Put it in a format where I can look at it, of course, have sound, those kinds of things. But it really is an introduction. So, and it's more to me that you're introducing yourself than it is to your classmates because you've been with them for some time. But I would like for you to do a quick little video. And here's all of your assignments. There's under this category of assignments, you find everything you need to do for your assignments, and everything under this category is worth 100 points. You have your 8 assignments that are tied to the textbooks. You have 4 scenarios, and here they are spelled out for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all worth 100 points. The only thing that's worth 200 points, or one of 2 things that's worth 200 points here, is the very last thing that you'll do, and that's a marketing plan for your school. So the next to the last thing. And then you'll also get 200 points for your digital competencies presentation that you are going to, or your school administrator presentations that you're going to do for me, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So this is where you find assignments. Everything here except for those last 2 items are worth 100 points. Just click under assignments. This is where you click on it, enter it. You all have done this a million times, much more knowledgeable of it than I. The other place where you will be entering materials would be under your course assessments. Now, course assessments are where I grade your SIOP, and I'll be giving you a grade of 200 for SIOP 1, SIOP 2. So as soon as Dr. Whitaker tells you SIOP 1 is super great, and then you click on SIOP task 1, put down your memo that Dr. Revis has approved, submit it to me, and I'll give you a grade. You can get up to 200 points for each one of those. If you don't get 200 points, I'll be very specific about what you need to fix. And it's usually, I would like for you to add something or a different format or something. It's going to be minor, because if Dr. Whitaker has approved it, then you are pretty much where you need to be. Now, honestly, if I give you 190 and you're comfortable with it, that's awesome. But again, I would prefer that you resubmit and resubmit and resubmit until you get the 200. Because what I want to make sure is that when it goes into TaskStream for the final grade, that it is as close to 200 as we can get, or close to a perfect 4. Now, once you've done all these, you'll put it all together in one final paper. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. You will send it to me. You'll click on it, submit it to me. I will give you a grade of 200 for that. And at that point, I will tell you submit to TaskStream. So do not submit anything to TaskStream until you have gotten the final approval from me. When you put all these tasks, all 6 tasks together, you'll have one final paper. I'll preview it one more time to make sure it's formatted correctly. And then once I give you the 200 for that and tell you to move on with it, submit it to TaskStream, you should do that at that point. All right, so only place you need to look for assignments is either for work that you have to do is here under assignments or here under course assessment. All right, the other big thing that we're going to do this semester is I am not requiring you to do peer reviews of each other like you did. I know there used to be, I know when I taught 601, there was peer reviews. So you don't have to do those. We are going to do only one. Discussion boards is what it was called. We are not doing discussion boards, but there will be only one time that you have to do a peer review of your classmates. So if you will look under team presentations, you will see that each one of you belongs to a team, whether it's team 1 or team 6. And if you belong to that team, then you have a presentation to do. And here is the date that you have to do it. And it is on June the 1st. And it's about a 15-minute presentation, and we'll go over kind of the details of what it is. So let's look at Sean and Levi. You are going to have the North Carolina Executive Standard 1. And I'm going to give you a format, but there is the North Carolina Executive Standard. Team, all of that's for the first 7 teams. When you get down here to the digital competencies, those teams, team 8, that's where they are right there. So you'll have a chance to look at that. Now, when we talk about this project, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time next week, but you need to reach out to your colleague that you are on a team with. Oh, by the way, so the first team is team 1. That's Sean and Levi. You will be doing the presentation on June the 2nd at 6 o'clock or thereabouts. And the peer review will be done by team 6, which is these folks here. So that means that you have 1 week that you will be doing the presentation, and then you will also have a week in which you will be doing the feedback. So the guidelines for the presentation, and we'll talk a little bit more about this a little bit later on, but here is the peer review feedback. You will do that and submit it and get a grade for that. You can get 200 points for this, 100 points for your presentation and 100 points for your review. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't want you to freak out on this yet. I'd rather you concentrate on your PSYOP, but this is your big opportunity where you have to collaborate with each other, and you also have to do some peer review of each other. All right? And we're going to be giving you some artificial data points. So if you want to look at it, here's what they are. But you will be leading a PLC of a brand new school on your particular topic. Now, I am going to open this up. And both groups have this. This was from a presentation last semester. These 3 folks did a wonderful job. And if you want to model your presentation after theirs, that would be okay. So I will actually open it up now. And you will have access to that. The other group, you probably won't have access to it yet, but I will open it up. So if you refresh your screen, it should be open to you now. So assignments, all those are worth 100 points except for the last 2 items. Course assessments, everything is worth 200 points. And then here's the file on here's the screen for your team presentations. All right, I've got the PSYOP guidance for you right here. This is what Dr. Revis was talking about. It is available to you. And when you start doing other things in TaskStream, you'll see some other materials as well. All right, then under Blackboard, you go down and you see each one of the class sessions. When you click on that, like for class session 1, if you will click on it, you will see I always start off at the top with what are the, just copying it, what are your readings, what you should be doing in Blackboard, which is me. Think of me as Blackboard. Think of Dr. Revis as TaskStream. And here's what needs to be done in TaskStream. All of you have done your CAP, have done quite well on it, so there's nothing for this week. I'll try to break down anything and everything that we're going to do this week. There's my quick little intro video if you have not seen it. That's kind of how I'd like for you to kind of model yours. Here are our class norms. I will start on time. I will end on time. And let me just speak to that. Our time is generally going to be from 6 to 7. We may finish 5 or 10 minutes early. I promise you we will try to stop as close to 7 o'clock, but I do need you to join me right at 6 o'clock because I am a stickler for time. We'll start at 6. We'll certainly be done by 7. Now, one of the things that I am also going to do is I will come on at 5:45. And for those 15 minutes of awkward silence, if anyone wants to come on and ask me something about your PSYOP or any of your assignments, or if you want to ask me anything about your job, I'll be glad to do that as well. The recording won't be on, so nothing will be recorded, but that's 15 minutes for you to meet with me if you've got a concern or you want to ask a question. I really don't mind. And it doesn't even have to be about the course. Maybe you're having a conversation with one of your colleagues and you have a question about it. I've been in education for 38 years, a superintendent for 20. There's very little that I haven't encountered or could not help you with. So I'm going to come on board at 5:45, 15 minutes. I can sit here and tell jokes with whomever comes on. or we can use it productively, but you don't have to be here until 6. Also, at 7 o'clock when we're done, I'm going to turn off the recording and I'm going to stick around until 7:15 or as long as you need in case you want to have some additional questions or conversations. Again, whatever you want to do. So 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. All right. This is a course that will, of course, will be recorded. So if you have to miss one night, that's okay. This is best done if you can be here every night that you can. I understand you have things going on in the summer, but I really like it when you're here. I think it adds to it because you'll see I ask questions and try to get you to participate as well. So, but if you miss one and you have to miss one or parts of one, that afternoon, a little bit later on that night, there'll be a recording that you'll see on that week. So tonight, after I'm done and I record it, at the very end of class session 1, at the very, very bottom, there will be a video for you to view from the class tonight. I am sure you've gone over the School of Education Conceptual Framework. If not, please feel free to do that. And then under each week, you'll have some interesting articles, some things that I may want to talk about as well. But these are for you to just look at if you want to. If you're short on time, I'd rather you work on your assignments, your scenarios, and your SIAP, and then that you do the readings from the book. So these are just interesting little things that I found that are related to the topic. I do want you to be aware of these dates here. You may want to consider putting these on your calendar. Let me get I live on Diet Coke, so I have to have it every so often, but these are some important dates for you this semester. By April 27th, all 6 evidences from your, which would be 5 Mels classes, not 3, but all of your evidences, like the CAP, the PSYOP, all those other things that you've done. So by April 27th, for all of you, it really is making sure that your PSYOP is in task stream. On the 24th, on May 4th, that's when it's the hard date. We have to have everything in there, as well as these other 4 things that Dr. Revis is going to talk to you about how to do. Those have to be in there. And you need to apply for online graduation. That will be $150, not $75. I need to change that, which I will go back to a little bit later on. And then, you know what? None of these dates are right. I need to go back and change all these dates. Never mind.
That's what I was about to say.
All right. Never mind. These are all old. I'll go back and change all those. You guys have already missed all those dates. All right. I'll go back. All right. Thank you for, see, you got to correct me. You got to catch me, but I will correct those dates. And I need to make sure that, I need to make sure that my other shell has them as well. So just ignore those, okay? And I'll ignore the first error you make, I promise. Although you will find many, many more that I make, so don't worry about that. All right, now, a lot of you may have some questions about your clinical hours. Remember, you have to do 80. So here are some ideas. You got these at the end of your semester, last semester. So here, just in place to help you. You need to help make sure we get those 80 hours or as many of them as we can. Remember, working on your PSYOP also counts toward your 80 hours. So record that time that you're doing planning with those, and we'll talk more about your hours, but there's some of those. All right, next Monday night, you have a required, Dr. Lamb requires a town hall meeting, and that's going to be Monday night. It's going to be at 6 o'clock, and here is your invitation for that, so make sure that you are there for that. All right, so that's week 1. What else do I need to make sure that everybody, let me make sure I got all my chats. Yeah, we're all here. Awesome. I think you're a great class. Dr. Sanders and your instructor said you're a great class as well. So what I want to do tonight, do you have any questions about Blackboard before I move on and do my quick little topics for what I would like for us to do? Are there any questions for me? Anything on Blackboard? And also, one of the other things too, I'll tell you, I look at chat, but I get going and I forget it's there. So I do not mind if you interrupt me and say, Dr. Stone, I have a question. Can I ask something? That's much easier for me. Sometimes I completely forget about chat. But does anybody have any questions about my Blackboard shell?
I have a question about the assignments.
Okay.
When I did the first one, I wrote it kind of informal. Is that okay, or do you want it? How formal do you want the assignments?
All right, I'll tell you this. The only thing that I would love for you to, they do not, you need to get in the habit of APA style, but your assignments to me is you thinking out of your head. So I don't expect those to be very formal. I do expect correct grammar and usage and things like that.
Sure.
And some thought put into it, but I'm not looking for formality. I'm just really looking for whether or not you answered the question. So I'm not looking,
Okay.
nor am I looking at APA style. Dr. Revis will do that when she grades you, but I won't. Let me go back to
Okay.
Let me go back to the Blackboard shell because, or the course overview, because here, by the way, is some other things that I need to mention. There is, there's that activity verification thing. If you will take a moment now while I'm talking to please do that. It doesn't take long at all. That's required for Gardner Webb, and at some point they'll knock you out of the class if that's not completed. Here is my information. That's my personal cell phone number. I really don't mind. There's my introduction. And here's my welcome to you. There's the textbooks. Here's our grading system. I do not do A pluses or A minuses. It's an A, B, or C. And those are the ranges in which you'll need to make. And when you look at my grades, you'll always see kind of how many points you get for each one of the activities. So that's the grading scale. There are your next steps. And here, by the way, are the correct important dates. So I need to go back and because I knew I had them in here someplace, but here they are. By July 20th at 9 o'clock, you need to have the SIOP into TaskStream. So please do that. That's a soft date that we try to get everybody to have them in there so we can accommodate some of those of you who are a little bit later. But by July 27th at 9 a.m., absolutely everything has to be into TaskStream. And that includes the 4 other things that you have to do: the disposition, the competency analysis, the 5 other things: the disposition, the competency analysis, the folio, and the internship log. And there's a survey that they are putting in there now, but it's like a 3-question quick little survey. And then by then you of course need to apply for graduation, which that correct fee is there, $150. And then the university is now scheduling an August 1st graduation. So we hope that will certainly happen. And you all will certainly be getting your master's degree, so you'll walk across the stage or whatever format we use, and we'll be given that degree and we'll celebrate. So that's the correct dates, and I'll make sure I go back and fix all those dates. But that's my Blackboard shell, and so let me ask one more time to be sure whether or not, and there's some other things on here too. There's some APA help, there's some tools, there's some interviewing materials. There's some things from the South Carolina Practice website, Praxis. There are the competencies again that we'll talk about, and evaluations and all sorts of stuff. So are there any questions on the Blackboard shell before I really begin to kind of cover the 2 topics that I wanted to cover tonight?
I have one about internship hours.
Yes, ma'am.
I had 141 in the fall and 141 in the spring. Do I still need to do hours now for this one?
Yes, you have to do 80 hours a semester. I would suggest that you go back and continuation of some of those that you've already done.
Yeah, I can. I already have like 11 in for this time because I'm an instructional coach and I'm trying to figure out AB days and who comes in what days and what the online classroom should look like and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of opportunities then. But yes, the requirement from Gardner Webb is that it's 80 hours per semester. All right, I think I've covered that. Please join us Monday night. Dr. Lamb will be looking for you, and you are the, well, there's actually 4 or 5 classes of 605, so he'll be looking for you though. All right, so let's go to week 1. Class session week 1. And then I'm going to talk for about 10 more minutes. Then we're going to head out of here. And well, after I remind you of a couple of things, and then we're going to call it a night. So this one, let me start with something else down here. All right, so this course, 605, is really about preparing you for the principalship. It is not a lot of theory, although there's some theory in Northhouse and in the other Blanchard's book, but it really is about preparing you for that first week, first year as a school principal. So everything we talk about, and what I would like for you to do is to bring questions and to bring experiences of great principals that you've had and share those with me. I'd like for us to, as a classes, 2 classes, begin to talk about some of the things that you've observed under your principals, because all of you have served under one or two or more principals. You probably had a bad one. You probably had a good one. And so as you begin to think about what you're going to do when you transition into your principalship, you should be learning from the experiences that you had, and we'll continue to do that. But it's only a beneficial course to you if we get a chance to talk about it and you share with each other, wow, this was a dynamic person. Here's something they did. Because that's something that you put in your tool chest. So when you become that principal, you're going to be able to do it as well. So here's an interesting little article on what makes a great principal. And I'm just going to skip down to a couple of the main points. But from my research and from everything I can, in my 38 years of experience in public education and certainly as a superintendent, when I evaluate principals, these are the kinds of things that I look for. And as a superintendent, I evaluated my principals. And when you're sitting across from me as a principal, I'm looking for, first of all, I've got a lot of information already in my head. People in the community talk to me. People in your building talk to me. I've seen the reports. People in the Ed Center or the central office talk to me. So I already have in my mind how I think you're doing. And so there are some benchmarks too, and these are a couple of the benchmarks. But when you come in and have that conference with your superintendent, or if it's your principal, if you're an assistant principal, you need to be prepared to talk about the kinds of things that you're doing outside of what they already have knowledge of. And so these are some things that I think would be beneficial for you as you begin your journey toward being an administrator. Just remember that if you can't say your school is like a family, then there's probably something wrong with the culture of that school. Because your family, when you walk into a successful school, there's a sense that everybody here cares about everybody. So it's a community of caring. So that's something that you as a principal need, or an assistant principal need to begin. Because when you get your first assignment, the superintendent may sit across from you and say, hey, I've got a great school for you. There's some things that you need to do to make it better. Well, one of the things that you need to do when you go in is to assess what the culture of that school is, whether or not people really like being there. And I can tell you that when I evaluated principals, the two biggies for me was what was the culture of the school and how are you doing academically. And so this is all about the culture. So, and it doesn't take you long to walk into your building. So silently, think about what the culture of your school is, whether or not your school is like a family. And if you can't say that, then begin to kind of pinpoint what makes it not a family. Because if you think about it, it's a natural to be a family, because we're together in a school 8 hours a day, sometimes more. We're there all year, a couple of extra weeks in the summer. We come back, families. So it really does have all the makings of a family. So if it doesn't feel like that, then there's something wrong. So that's a sign of a great principal, is when that school feels like that everyone there is a family. Here's one that will get you, because if all of you have been teachers or are teachers, and you know that the worst principal that you probably have ever had treated you like you didn't know what you were doing, or you were not a professional. And yes, you make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And it is your job as an administrator to say, here's what I need you to do. Here's kind of the problem. But you always treat people professionally. And great principals remember that. And so when you leave that classroom and become that assistant principal, don't forget what it was like to be a classroom teacher, because that's going to serve you well. Now, when you cross that line and become an administrator, you become them, because there are some things that you can't do. You can't keep up meeting with the 5th grade team and having lunch with them every day. As the assistant principal, that's not a good way to treat your staff. If you were a 5th grade teacher and you moved into that school, you need to begin to reach out and making sure that everyone feels like they're included. One of the worst things you can do is for people to begin to think, oh, she's got favorites or he's got favorites. So treat everybody professionally and get outside of what you normally do and begin to have that understanding of what great principals do. Also, it is important that as a principal, you understand the role of data. And I can tell you this about Gardner-Webb University's master's program. All of you should be experts in data and how to use data to drive instruction after you've finished your master's. All of your courses have been about this. Every plan you've written has to have a data point. Everything you've done has been related to data and where you are and where you need to be. So just realize as you go into that principalship, everything you've done at Gardner-Webb, every evidence that you turned in, we've been getting you to use real data. We didn't give you hypothetical data in the first 4 courses. We gave you real data. And so that's what you're going to need to be able to do. When you jump into your school that you are assigned, is to understand the data and how you can use that to improve instruction. You got to be student-centered. Kids got to know you like them. Kids got to know you got to get out there. You've got to be seen. The worst principals are the ones who get stuck behind their desk and don't make time. And I know it's a busy job. It's an extremely busy job. And if you allow it, it will consume you. But the way around that is to make sure you book off time of every day where you can get out into the building when you can, when it's not COVID problems, you get out and the kids know who you are. The kids are, and the teachers know you as well. So make sure that you are student-centered. You really care about the kids. You reach out to all the families, not just the ones from the right side of the track, not from the families who are always there for the PTA meetings, but you reach out to every single one of your families. And of course, you got to have that energy. I had a principal in Caldwell County who was probably the most energetic man I've ever in my life met. He got to school and he had to drive about 40 minutes to get to school. He was there every morning at 5:30. He beat the custodian there. Now, I'm not saying you need to do this, but he beat the custodian there. He left every night about 8 o'clock after everybody was gone. The man he needed Ritalin. It was just all over the place, but they loved it. They loved his energy. So just realize that you've got to have that energy. You've got to have that passion when you go into your school assignment. And it's all about promoting school spirit and teamsmanship, making sure that everyone feels like they are part of the team. And it's also about developing good leaders, making sure that you are not only developing all of your staff, but you're also picking out and looking for people who might be good leaders. And it's looking beyond the people who are on your school improvement team. It's looking beyond those people who always volunteer. It's trying to find those shy folks who make great leaders, but they just don't know it yet. And it's the ability to develop them as well. And when you have good help, so you realize that it's not just you, that there are other people around you who can help you. So those are kind of some of the talking points I wanted to share about what's to be a good principal. We'll talk about the change process in a minute. There's one more thing I want to show you. I thought I did. Where was that? We're going to talk about the role of the principal a little bit later on. Oh, challenges. These are some other things that you need to realize that as you go into this administrative position, it's great. And I've read some of your surveys I've read some of your stories about my whys. And you have awesome whys, but just realize that there's a lot of challenges to be an administrator. And this is by no means to try to talk you out of it, because we need phenomenal administrators. We need a lot of administrators. And for those of you who are going into administration now is a great time, because a number of retirees, there's a great market for you. So, but just know that if you go into administration, there will be some challenges ahead. The one that we hear the most about is the paperwork. You'll be required to do a lot of that, a lot of frustration around paperwork. But you got to do it, and you got to do it on time. I can tell you that if there's a monthly fire drill report, and if you are a week late with that, that means the district turns in its report a week late. If you turn yours in a week late to the district, that makes the district late. If you turn your Title I plan in late, or any of your plans in late, it makes the districts late. Just remember, whatever paperwork you're doing, there's like a 99% chance that the district is having to do that paperwork for someone too. And so when the district gives you some deadlines or some times, it's kind of important you do it. And that's what stands out when I'm evaluating people. While this person gets their stuff in always late, we can't have that because it makes the district look bad. So just realize paperwork has deadlines and timelines, and those have to be followed. There's a lot of decision making. You're not going to make everyone happy. You rarely make everyone happy. And the buck stops with you, because you are going to be the one who has to make some really tough decisions. Scheduling of your time, scheduling of everything that's required of the school is sometimes the bigger the school, the more the nightmare. With COVID-19, of course, it's a tremendous problem. You're also going to spend quite a bit of your time recruiting and retaining staff. You're going to want to make sure that you have the right people in place, and some of the best people are going to find other opportunities. So you're always going to be on the recruiting and the retention. Evaluations are a critical part. You have to have those. There are timelines for those, and it seems like every year they add more and more of them, more categories, but just realize that's something that's going to consume a lot of your time, and they are very powerful. But a lot of teachers can see them as a waste of time if you don't really spend giving them some really good summative feedback on those evaluations. You're going to spend a lot of time on attendance and discipline if you're in middle schools and high schools and maybe even in elementaries, trying to get the kids there, trying to make sure they're there on time. You will not spend a lot of time on curriculum design. The central office and the state will do that for you. You will spend a lot of time on your outcomes and your parental involvement, as well as communication and collaboration. So those are some of the things that you're going to be spending a lot of your time on. Now, I have 6:45, so I am going to stop talking content because I have hopefully, if you're looking at our Blackboard shell, hopefully I have kind of addressed or given you some content, well, that would be the class schedule, on the role of school administrators, a little bit about that. So at this point, I want to hit a couple of things and I'm going to take one or two quick little questions. Where do you put your work? Every bit of your work goes in these two categories: assignments, course assessments. Assignments is everything from me in Blackboard. Course assessments is everything on the SIOP. You will send your SIOP and your internship shell to Dr. Revis first, but here's where everything is. Here's where your Zoom invitation is for every week. I'll try to remember to send one about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes before if you want to join me for that session. Weekly schedule here, textbooks, grades, you know how to do those. And next Monday, remember, you have that special required town hall meeting. And then on May 26th, we meet again. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you. Does anyone have a question for me? I don't know if I got all my chats or not. Anybody have a question for me? Oh, Dr. Lamb, go ahead.
Hey,
Lamb is
just
here.
remind everybody, if you have not applied for graduation, please do. They'll thrash me if you're being late, but we'll get you in. So if you have not applied for graduation, please do. And don't forget, as Dr. Stone said, we'll meet next Monday at 6 and we'll go through everything to make sure that we're good on all of our paperwork, potential licensure stuff, all those things that we'll have to do here at the end. Congratulations to all of you for making it. Just one more hurdle to go. It's good to see all of you. Hadn't seen some of you in a couple of semesters, but it's good to see you all. Thank you again for joining us at Gardner Webb. And I'll reiterate as I go what Dr. Stone said. I'm getting calls, I'm getting emails, I'm getting reference forms. Folks need school administrators. Now is the best time I've ever seen to get in the business. So let's push on through and get ready. Hopefully we'll have a new job in the fall. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb. How long have you been around? I know you called me an obstacle, so I don't know how long you've been listening to me.
Long enough. I waited to 6:45. I didn't want to steal your thunder on you first night. I just wanted to say hey to everybody. I'll leave you alone now.
Anytime, Dr. Lamb, you join us, please
Thank
interrupt
you.
me. All right.
Question: should we be getting a late fee for the graduation?
Probably will.
Okay.
That's why I said I'll see if I can get that waived, but they probably won't.
No, I got charged for the late fees. That's what I was wondering, and I wanted to send
my. I don't know how that. I should be smart enough to know how that works, but I'm not. But when they put out the notice to apply for graduation, they start charging the late fee at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, it was crazy.
I don't know how that works.
And I wanted to send my condolences. I tried to text you, but the number I texted, I think I texted Dr. Stone actually.
Oh, it probably did. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It's that's part of aging, I guess.
It is.
But thank you for that, Sean. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. Are there any questions about the course? If not, we'll see you Monday night at 6 o'clock, and then we'll see you again on Tuesday night. Are there any general questions? And I'll stick around. I'm going to stop recording.